Okay, today is the 29th. I just tried to do this video. I got interrupted. This is a big video. I don't know how long it's going to be. I had a bird on my window. Anyways, I started this video the day before yesterday, and I was trying to do like updates and everything, but I decided to scratch that video and just do one video, sit down and explain what and all is going on. So I'm going to start with when my grandmother got sick. This is a video about my grandmother. She is 79 years old, and I'm going to start from there, and then the day that she got bad. And okay, so well, before I get into that, for like a couple of months now, my grandmother, she lost my grandfather in 2020. She just started, she was upset, she was grieving, but she was fine with it because she knew my grandfather was going to heaven. She knew he wasn't suffering, but you still missed your spouse. Well, past couple of months, my grandmother's been tired, and she's not wanting to really eat, which then again, all growing up, my grandmother really never ate. Even when her kids were little, she would always make sure her kids are fed before her. That's my grandmother. So her not eating a lot wasn't a big, huge surprise to us. And she was fine. Well, Saturday, I called my grandmother because we still had food poisoning. This was Christmas Eve. I still had food poisoning, and Friday night, my grandmother was like, I don't feel good. She was like, I think I caught a stomach bug. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. She was like, I don't feel good, but this level of I don't feel good is my grandmother's usual of, I'm depressed, I don't want to eat. She regroups, she's just in her head at the moment about my grandfather, things like that. So we were giving her words of encouragement and, talking to her and stuff. And then Saturday morning, I called my grandmother. My mom told me to call my mom about Christmas to see, how grandma feels and everything, and to see if it's still going on, because I was still feeling really horrible and sick. Daniel was on the mend. He was basically over it, but I was still really sick. So I called my grandmother, and my grandmother was like, hey, I can't breathe. She said, I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm going to get off here. I said, no, grandma, stay on the phone with me. Don't get off the phone with me. So my grandmother hangs up the phone, and I am frantic. I knew my mom wasn't out there. My mom was helping her friend at the moment. And, cause we had a really bad snowstorm. So my mom was helping her friend, and my aunt, I figured my aunt was with my mom, but I wasn't sure if my aunt was with my mom. So, I got a hold of my mom, I got a hold of my aunt, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you're with her. I don't know if, Alexa, stop! Kids set an unnecessary timer. But I was like, hey, I tried to get a hold of my cousins out there. I can't get a hold of them. Grandma says she can't breathe, blah, blah, blah. I messaged my aunt. I was like, I don't know if you're out there. Grandma can't breathe. Can you go over there? Blah, 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 blah. And my mom, frantic, she, as you would, she finally got a hold of my cousins, and my grandmother needed her inhaler because my grandmother was just seen at the hospital, which I did not know. She was just seen by her doctor and got an inhaler. So, hold on. Okay, so, anyways, with all this going on and being said, they gave her an inhaler. She was okay. Sunday, she was okay. Hold on. So, my grandmother still didn't feel good. And she was, she didn't feel good, but it was she couldn't breathe. She needed her inhaler. She didn't feel good. Trying to get over that. Understandable. Sunday comes, and see, I didn't know anything of what was going on. I talked to my grandmother Sunday. It was when my Aunt Terry was there, and she was like fine. She was fine. My grandmother called me, which I'm not surprised. Like, my grandmother calls me like 2 or 3 times a day. I talk to my grandmother all the time, and I'm always calling my grandmother. Like, me and my grandmother are like always on the phone with each other. And so, my grandmother called me. She was fine. She was good. I get a call Monday morning about how I called my mom, and I was about some papers, and I needed her down because she knows like my muscular dystrophy and everything, and she knows like all of that. Like, my grandmother knows all of it too, but my grandmother's like going through what she's going through, and I didn't want Social Security to be bothering my grandmother. So I put my mom down, and I was like, hey, is your address fully updated from your ID now? Like, because my mom did recently just move by my grandmother. So I was talking to her, and my mom goes, don't be alarmed, don't be scared, don't be, anything like that. But grandma had an episode last night. Basically like the one that happened over the summer, which was, it was like July. It was like the middle of July. It was after our camping, so it was around the middle of July, beginning of August, because this was before the kids were in school, and this was before I got COVID for the second round. So with that episode, my grandmother got like, her blood sugar dropped. She was weak. She was hallucinating. She wanted somebody to stay with her all night. I stayed there. I didn't sleep that night. And I was worried about her. Come to find out, it was the medication that she was on at that point. So it was a new medication. Plus that day, my grandmother ate Sharky's ice cream. Hi, Bubby. What are you doing? I see you. You're so silly. You're sneaking in here on me. You're so rotten. They're watching a movie. But she had like ice cream and cookies and candy. Like, she had a lot of sweets, and she's sugar diabetic. And it's just what my grandmother wanted, and we were having a fun day, and I was indirectly monitoring her sugar, but at the same time, I'm not gonna fully stop her. I'm not gonna do that. So, but I was telling her, I was like, hey, wait a little bit, have some more if you want some. I see you, Lex. So, Lex, get that off my phone. You want me to show him your car? Yeah, I'll show him your car. Lex, want me to show you his new car that he got yesterday while I was out. But, there you go. So anyways, like, there was a lot going on, and she was scared, and then she ended up being fine. So my mom was like, she basically had an episode, like when I was there, and my mom went out, got her some stuff, and she was like, hey, because her sugar got really low. Like, it wasn't the fact that it spiked, it got really low because she hasn't been eating. And my mom was like, we asked her if we would take her to the hospital. She said, no, if I go to the hospital, I'll go by squad, but I'm not going to go to the hospital. So I was like, okay. An hour and a half, maybe 2 hours later, I get a phone call from my cousin, and he's going, I don't know what to do. She's, her lips are purple. She's pale. She's freezing cold. She's shivering. She's shaking. She's having a really bad time with, like, her memory. Like, she was really bad off. I said, have y'all called the squad? And he goes, she is not letting anybody call the squad. So I said, okay. I said, let me get off the phone with you. I said, I am going to call the non-emergency dispatch. Because, like, I can't call 911 from my phone. And because, like, mind you, I was snowed in at this point. So I couldn't even leave. I said, I'm going to call her county's non-emergency. It's an emergency, but like, it's like the non-emergency dispatch. So it's like the dispatch center, but it's like not it's like you don't call 911 and then they transfer you, like you get transferred over there. Because if I call 911 here, I'd get my county and not her county. Even though they can send me over there. I cut out the middleman, basically. So I called her county dispatch center. And I was explaining to them everything that was going on. And they said, does she have a number that we can reach you at? And I said, yes. I gave them the number. And she said, we're going to call and talk to her and figure out everything that's going on. Figure out if it's something we need to bring in. Because she was basically having flu-like symptoms. And, you know, having the flu is not an emergency squad ride. Yeah, they're playing. The doggies are playing. So with that, I called my cousin, told him, you know, I was then going to call her doctor and have her doctor tell her that she needs to go. While I'm on the phone with her doctor and I'm explaining, you know, giving them all of her information, because I'm her only emergency contact. Reason being why I'm her only emergency contact is because, one, I live between 10 hospitals. The 10 hospitals that my grandmother prefers to go to. And I didn't move here because of that. This is just the house that my grandparents built. I lived in here the longest, really. This was the house I was born and raised in. And, you know, when you're here for 40 years, you then, you know, love the hospitals around you. And her, you know, it's fine. It's fine. So, like, I'm around all these hospitals. I'm her emergency contact. You know, if anything was to happen to her, I'm, like, the closest to get to those hospitals and contact everybody else. You know, and I know more about the medical body and the terminology and the understanding and the procedures and everything that comes with it, because my passion is to be a neonatal intensive care nurse, and I've studied a lot of the body and how things are connected and everything in between. So, and when I talk to people, I can lower, like, it's a God gift, honestly. I can lower their, I can explain it better, and I can lower the anxiety of, hey, this is what's going on. It's important, but it's not traumatic. Like, I understand you're worried and upset, but it's not a reason to cry over it. It's, she's going to be fine. She's not going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's not going to be fine. This is what's going on. This is the next step. This is how long it's going to take. You know what I mean? So, with all that being said, while I was on the phone with her doctor, squad calls, and my grandmother's like, I don't need a squad. I'm fine. I'm fine. My cousin takes the phone and he explains it, and they send out the squad. By the time that the squad gets there, her doctor's office calls her, and her doctor tells her, you got it. You need to go. You've got to go. So at this point, I then get a call from my cousin saying that they've all called her and talked to her. Yeah, it's empty. It's empty, Bubby. But they all talked to her and everything. She's going. She was going. She's currently at Fort Thomas. That's where squad took her. That's where she wanted to go. So, and that was like one of the only available paths to one of the hospitals that was basically majority of the way cleared compared to the other routes to like other hospitals. So, if that makes any sense. She goes to emergency. They tell us that she's bleeding, and I'm just going to tell you as time goes on, like this whole thing. So this is Monday. She's bleeding internally. You want back out there, bub? He closed the door. Hold on. Okay. So, she had, she was like bleeding internally somewhere. Like, not like, she was bleeding and they couldn't find out, or they were trying to figure out where she was bleeding from because she had blood in her stool. And her heart rate was so ridiculously high and they could not bring it down. Mind you, my grandmother has a pacemaker, 2 metal knees, and basically, like, that's it with her health besides having glaucoma and getting the surgery. you know, her heart rate was really high. Couldn't figure out what was going on. She's on heart medication. She was on blood thinners. I didn't find out till yesterday when I visited, but I'm about to get to that point. She was on blood thinners, and she's on like diabetic medication and stuff like that. So with this being said, you know, we're all worried about her. We still are worried about her to this day. Like, that's just regardless. You worry about the people that you love and you care about. But they said we're going to admit her for a couple of days and go from there, because she's like bleeding internally somewhere. We can't figure out what's going on and everything in between. So that was Monday. Tuesday, and this is like in the meantime of I'm like updating everybody, I'm telling everybody what's going on, I'm giving other people credit too, but I was, you know, because I'm emergency contact, I was getting the phone calls from the hospital and everything like that. So like, I'd find out something, I would tell everybody else, and then they would tell other people, and I was like, you know, we were getting the word out to everybody. So and I was like posting on Facebook daily update, or, you know, like updates as I got them, just so you understand this, because not only was I messaging people, I was putting it there because we are a big family that believes in prayers, and my grandmother believes in prayers, and prayers work, because, and I'm getting to this because Tuesday I called, and I finally got like her room number and everything, and her phone room and everything else. And her nurse told me that they've been monitoring every 2 hours. Her heart rate is still really high. They're trying to flush her out so they can go in and see where the bleeding is coming from. Because at this point, like, it wasn't like bleeding internally. It was like somewhere in her colon is where she was bleeding. So in order to go check her colon, she had to get flushed out. But they weren't like giving her anything that was going to cause other issues, if that makes sense. I then get a phone call at 10. I spoke to our nurse at like 8 o'clock. I got another call about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I was like, my heart sank. I'm not gonna lie. My heart sank, because she called me and she was like, hey, she was like, I just want to let you know. And she did say, your grandmother is fine, but I did not hear that. And she was like, we came in, we checked her at 9:50, and then at 10:10, her heart monitor was going berserk. And I cut the doctor off, and I was like, hold on. But I was like, is she still here on earth? I don't know. Like, just tell me. And she goes, yeah, she's still here. She's fine. But I just want to tell you that, at 10:10, her heart rate was just off the charts. Like, not only was it high like it's been since she's been at the hospital, you know, from where they were monitoring it, but she called and said that she couldn't move. She couldn't rotate. She couldn't do anything. She was scared because she couldn't feel her legs. She couldn't move her legs. She couldn't move the left side of her body or anything. And I said, okay. Mind you, they were already running tests on her anyway. So, like, it's nothing on the hospital's end. Nothing at all. Nothing on the hospital's end. I'm going to say this. They said we have an MRI. Well, she said, we got her to calm down. Her heart rate was high because she got scared and worried, which is understandable. Your heart rate goes high when you panic. But she said we're going to run an MRI on her, and we're going to do a CAT scan, and we're going to figure out if it was a stroke. I said, okay. So they did that. They got the results back. My grandmother had a mini stroke. And yesterday, well, like, you know, I'm getting all the updates and everything. She's got feeling in her leg. Her leg feels weak. Yesterday, or day before, my grandmother I finally got to talk to my grandmother. I love her. I love her to death. I do. She said that she had a blood clot somewhere between her neck and her chest. And then, you know, she was telling me about the stroke and everything, the mini stroke. And she said that she's fine. So yesterday, the snow was melting. Daniel was off work, and I told him Tuesday night, I said, hey, look, I said, you're off work. I said, the snow's melting. I'm finally able to get out of the driveway. Because Daniel parked this car before the snow. He parked it all the way at the end of the driveway so he can get in and out to go to work. But he said he said he's fine with it. He understood. And he was more than glad to watch the kids. So I ended up, my mom brought me my grandmother Sandy, one of my grandmother's daughters, my great grandmother who's in the hospital, her daughter, her oldest daughter, and she rode with me over because she lives all the way in Cynthiana, and it's an hour drive from Cynthiana to the hospital. So my mom went and got her last night. She slept at my mom's. My mom dropped her off with me. My mom had to go to work. My mom couldn't miss work, so I take her with me. We're up at the hospital. Gosh, we're up at the hospital from like 8:30 all the way until like 2:30 because my grandmother at like around 2:30 was like tired and wanted to go to bed. And they did an echo test, which does a lot of work. You know, it wears you out. So while we were there, we found out that my grandmother's, her pacemaker monitor showed that she's been AFib for over 2 weeks. What, Bubby? Hold on. Alex came in here telling me he wanted to eat. He says, eat. I was like, you just ate. So, anyways, found out that she's been AFib for 2 weeks, or a little over 2 weeks, which is before Christmas. And they said with AFib, she's got a clot in her artery, right by her heart on the left-hand side. Oh. Okay, so anyways, found out she's been AFib for a little over 2 weeks. She, see, I'm drawing a blank now because my kids are doing stuff. Oh, so he said that when you go into AFib and where her artery is and how clogged it is, it will cause flu-like symptoms. What happened was months ago, she started to develop a blood clot and he was looking at her medication and stuff to figure out when her doctor took her off of blood thinners. And my grandmother has a pacemaker. She's supposed to be on blood thinners. Like, that's just what it is. They were, like, taking her off of blood thinners. So, a couple of months ago, my grandma started to develop a blood clot. And this blood clot then turned into her going AFib. So, you know, I done told you CAT scan, all that came back, that she had a little mini stroke on the right-hand side in the back, like back here. They said over time that will heal and go away. But basically, she was having, her physical therapy was after we left. The nurse was coming in to help her get up and walk around and everything. She was in high spirits. They got her on blood thinners to help lower that blood clot. I'm saying she's supposed to, but goal was she was going to get out Friday. However, if physical therapy sees that she's not ready to leave yet, they're not going to release her. So there's a good possible chance that she's going to be in there over this weekend. And when physical therapy and the blood clots are starting to go away, and then she will go home. if physical therapy says that she's at the point where she needs to have a physical therapist come out to her house and do physical therapy, and then she can transfer to therapy at a facility, then they'll do that. If not, then she can just straight go to physical therapy. When she gets out of the hospital, she's going to have to follow up with her cardiologist. She's going to have to follow up with her cardiologist. She's going to have to get a colonoscopy done. She's going to have to do physical therapy. She's going to have to do something else. I forget. There was a lot. There was a lot. Like the stuff that's going to be on her discharge papers, like I remembered it, but it's going to be on her discharge papers, so I'm not trying to like remember that. I'm only trying to remember what was said. So right now, she's in high spirits. She's in good spirits. Prayer does answer, because I will say this: she's not bleeding, and they didn't find any tears or anywhere in her. So, anyways, she's in high spirits. She's actually, when we were there, they had her on the bed alert, which if she got up at all, the alarm would go off on her bed and alarm the nurses. She was actually standing up and like moving a little bit, like she was turning and whatnot. Her arm is fine. She didn't have a stroke on her face or anything. It was just her leg, and it's weak. But she got mad and she said, "Oh, eat my grits," to the bed. And the nurse comes in, and while she said that, she goes, "I don't hear a lot of things, but I just hear you say eat my grits." And Grandma goes, "Yeah, that stupid thing rats on me every time I move." And I like when we say move, like she can move in her bed. It's just like if her leg is off of the bed and she tries to like readjust, or she gets up for any reason, like it will rat on her. But the woman was like, her nurse was Jasmine. Paige was her nurse Tuesday. Jasmine was her nurse Thursday or Wednesday, because today's Thursday. And she was like, "That is the most Christian thing I've ever heard come out of somebody's mouth up here." She said, "You really are a Christian." And yeah, my grandma was like being a little smart aleck. And we have noticed though that my grandmother, which she's been doing this for a little while, but up at the hospital, like the hospital said it could have been like she'll go like this a lot and she'll shake her head. My mom and everybody says that they think that she's got early signs of Parkinson's. I'm not exactly sure. Like, I kind of feel like that, but doctors are saying that usually when you start to get like a blood clots in certain places, and you trying to explain this the best way I can to you guys, but basically when you start to get blood clots in certain places and you already have underlying health conditions that are being taken, that you have, you tend to do things like you develop tics, and you just, and her stroke, since like she didn't do it when she came in, but since she had her stroke, she's going like she shakes her head a lot. So hopefully she's gonna get better. I know she will. My only thing that makes me sad is strokes can happen to anybody at any time. But my grandmother's almost 80. She'll be 80 this year. And the most that we'll probably have with her is another 20 years. That's not a long time. That's not a long time. It's not. It's really not a long time at all. Oh, man. Oh, I love her. I love her to death. She's my mom. But that's the update on my grandmother. I don't have any updates for today. It's still early. It's only 8:37. I had to make a Social Security call at 9. But yeah, that's an update on my grandmother. Oh, I love her to death. I should be getting an update. Like, now that she's to the point where she's been there for a couple of days and she's starting to get better, I wouldn't get a phone call unless something happened. Like, I mean, like, something happens, like, medically. Not even just a thing of turns for the worst, but, like, if they schedule, like, another MRI or something, then they'll, you know, they'll schedule it and do it, and then they'll call me and tell me the results. And, but they're not gonna call me every second. I don't want them calling me all the time. Like, this doesn't, like, when I say this, it sounds selfish, but what I'm meaning is there's other patients that have to be seen. There's other people that have to get care and everything going on. Nurses and their abilities are not for the weak. You know, they're taking meal orders, they're giving medication, they're taking them to the bathroom, they're doing everything that they need to do. Like, it's a busy job. So I want them to do their job and take care of everybody, and then, you know, if something happens, then they can call me. But I'm gonna hop off of here. My kids are being crazy. Alright, I'll see y'all in another video.